I'll take us over. That's just the process of Zoom doing its thing. And what would you like to title this show? Any ideas?
You had a title already in your promo, didn't you? I don't recall what it was.
I don't remember what it was.
Do you want to just use the protecting the people and places you love?
Yes, that's good.
That's a good one, yeah. Protecting the people and places you love. Sure.
Syncs right in with
the t-shirt.
It's stand up, and there you go. Perfect.
Perfect. Oh, there you go. I love it. Love it. Okay.
Does this dynamically change the camera depending on who's speaking or something, or that's you controlling it?
No, this Zoom is in control at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go over to Facebook. Am I shaking, or was it you?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't think I'm shaking.
No, my floor is shaking. I've got my washing machines on spinning at the moment. It just is, it's crazy.
Okay. There are tremors periodically.
Oh, okay. Well, I believe we're live, everybody. Hello, Facebook. How are you? Good to see you. Of course, it's Frankie Sense and More. It's Thursday, and I'm so pleased to be with you today. I have a few notes I just wanted to mention. Look what came in the mail. Yay! That's my latest book, For Want of 40 Pounds, and I'm so excited because thank you, Facebook friends. You, along with some other wonderful people, helped make this an international bestseller in 3 countries, in 3 categories, all at the same time. I've never done that before, and this is my 4th book, so wow. Thank you. I so appreciate you for that. It's been a while since I've related this show back to the United Nations Global Goals. But you know what? That's the grassroots from which this show sprung. And if you don't remember why the global goals exist, let me remind you. In 2015, the world leaders agreed to 17 goals for a better world by 2030. Now, these goals have the power to end poverty, fight inequality, and stop climate change. The most important. Guided by these goals, it's now up to all of us, the government, business, civil society, and the general public to work together to build a better future for everyone. And let's take a look at some of the goals I think that relate to today's show. We've got global goal number 3. You have the right to a healthy life and well-being. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. Global goal number 6. You have the right to clean water and sanitation. To ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Global goal number 15, life on land. You have the right to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. That's a big one. Goal number 14, life underwater. We have the right to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. And the one that I think is imperative, and we're kind of taking action on all of these, but today, goal number 13 is climate action, which says we have the right to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. So do you know what's happening in your country, in your world? Well, today we're going to talk about Canada and what some dedicated volunteers are doing to take action. And today I'd like to introduce you to my amazing guests, Kerry Mueller and Jim Marston, 2 incredible volunteers who belong to the Blue Dot Movement. And that is a national grassroots campaign based on the idea that everyone in Canada deserves the right to a healthy environment, including clean air and water, and a say in the decisions that affect our health and well-being. Now, Kerry, she grew up in Sudbury, Ontario in the 60s and 70s, and she enjoyed swimming and canoe trips and being outdoors. However, that's when acid rain began. And because Sudbury is a mining industry, it's a big mining town, it was a huge problem for them. And that experience and the subsequent rejuvenation of Sudbury has given Kerry a lifelong awareness of environmental issues and the belief that solutions can be found. She's a retiree, a wife, and a mother of 2. And she volunteers for the Blue Dot movement to help find these solutions. Jim Marston, he's a husband and a father of 2 and a grandfather of 4. He's volunteered for most of his adult life as a scout leader, a big brother, and a bicycle mechanic. Jim has been a nature lover his whole life, and he became an active environmentalist 4 years ago when he joined the Blue Dot movement. Well, what about you? Well, first, let's welcome to the show, you guys. I'm so glad that you're here. Finally.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
It is such a pleasure. And, I don't know if you were excited by the United Nations Global Goals, but the first time I saw them, I was in the movie theater in Kitchener, and the Global Goals advertisement came on the big screen, and I'm like, oh, I have to know more about that. I have to get involved in that. Like, that's just such a big initiative. And every country in the world, except for one, bought in. Like, how amazing is that? Nobody's ever done that before. So it was so important, this idea of clean air and clean water and sustainability and environment and all of that, and health and good health. And of course, there's more. But all of these 17 goals were so important. I actually started this show because of it. So here we are today, years later. That was 2015, so 4 years later, and we're looking at almost 4 years, Blue Dot. And how long have both of you been involved with the Blue Dot movement? And we should say, you want to give a bit of the history of the Blue Dot movement, whoever wants to?
Okay, I'll lead off with that. The Blue Dot movement's rather young. It started only in 2014, and it has really taken off, considering it's only been going that long. It was started by the David Suzuki Foundation. It's a project of it. And it was intended to be a grassroots movement that would engage individuals at the municipal level first, and then the provincial, and then the federal level, with the goal of having the right to a healthy environment be enshrined in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is a very big goal, and there'll be many little steps along the way, but that's where it sprang from, and both Jim and I joined right near the beginning of it.
Do you want to add anything, Jim, to that, or?
Yeah, I can add a little bit. I think I think that David found that he was fighting some of the same battles over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
He might win a battle that prevented some logging in an area in BC, but 4 years later, the same battle came up again, and he was frustrated by not really being able to make some solid accomplishments and being able to move forward. So this is when a convenient timing happened with a gentleman by the name of David Boyd, who was the executive director of Eco-Justice in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
He approached the David Suzuki Foundation and suggested that they work together towards achieving environmental rights, the legal protection for environmental rights. And that's what really spawned the beginning of the Blue Dot movement back in 2014.
Well, now that you brought up Eco-Justice, I just have to give a shout out to Michael and Louise Pickett, who every year do a concert for peace, and the proceeds go to the Eco-Justice system. So that's great. I just had to give them a shout out. I wasn't planning to, but good luck. Thanks, Michael and Louise, for that. So you guys have been around since the beginning, around 2014. How quickly did it grow? I mean, you said it grew fast, and it seems like it has. But where was the concentration? Was it BC? Was it Ontario? Who took the lead? Who like really said, "Oh, yeah, we got to do this"? Do you know?
I think it grew everywhere quickly, didn't it, Jim? Faster than anybody thought. In municipalities, I know when we approached our municipalities with making a declaration, this is how it began. As Jim is saying, the idea was to make it a legal thing and get municipalities and other governments involved. Municipalities saw the sense in it, because a lot of what happens with climate change really happens at the municipal level, and they deal with it. So they were keen, and municipalities all across the country. So we have over 170 municipalities now, which encompass more than half of all Canadians, have made formal declarations by their councils to say they support the right to a healthy environment.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I know a lot of my listeners, most of my listeners are American, and they always forget about Canada, and we have 12 provinces. And coast to coast. And we, the three of us, live in Ontario, and David Suzuki, who we were talking about, lives in British Columbia, which is Western Canada. And of course, you guys in the US, you've got 50 states, and you also have municipal. I mean, you've got, governors and senators, and it's kind of a little bit different setup, but similar in a way that if you were interested in doing something like this, you could definitely have a grassroots movement towards having clean air and clean water.
There's one other thing that would tie in, maybe Jim, you want to speak to it. David Boyd is no longer with EcoJustice, he's with the UN, and what he's doing there. Oh,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into it now or not, Frank, but I mean, the ultimate goal to protect our rights is to get the right to the environmental rights protected in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's part of our Constitution. Now, that's a big ask, and it's a big change to get something changed at that level. So we've really been going through things that I hope you aren't hearing this crying too much.
I wasn't sure if that was a bird screeching or if that was a baby crying.
Doing a little babysitting. That's my granddaughter, not wanting to have a nap at the moment. Anyway, so through levels, we've started with getting citizens to sign a national petition. So we have over 111,000 citizens who have done that so far. And Kerry's mentioned as well that we've done work at the municipal level, so we've made some great progress there as well. In fact, all 8 of our municipalities in the Waterloo region have made this Right to Healthy Environment Declaration that Kerry was referring to. And then we've also done some work at the Ontario provincial level in terms of Ontario has had an Environmental Bill of Rights for, 24 years or so. And it's done some good things, but it's not strong enough. And so it was opened up for gathering input from the public, and we helped the public submit a bunch of input to make it stronger, including by adding environmental rights to it. And the Ontario government didn't get a chance to finish the job, but hopefully they will in the future. And we've also done some work at the federal level, trying to, mainly on the area of the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. So quite a bit of work was done there. There was a committee that came up with many recommendations, and we again helped a lot of Canadians provide feedback into the federal government to consider strengthening CEPA.
What's the average age of your volunteers for Blue Dot?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The average age.
You know what? I think at least in terms of our team that we see, we have actually over 100 people on our Waterloo Region team mailing list. Mm-hmm. I'd say that probably about half of them would be older folks. Mm-hmm. And maybe a quarter more would be more like university students. Okay. So the other 25 in the middle. I think part of it is a matter of how much time people have too, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, retired folks have more time. They can also look back and reflect on what's the future going to be like for our grandchildren, and what can we do now to help make it better. And on the other hand, young people in college are looking forward and saying, my God, what am I growing up into?
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's kind of important, because I wonder if there's a disconnect somewhere in the middle that where, okay, they're busy, but you look at the news every day, and you look at, Trump and all of that was happening in the US, and they're going, oh, that's okay. We don't have to worry about that. This rock's going to be around forever. And, there's no global warming. There's no this, no that. And, who's buying into that? The people who are making money, who are working for the organizations that are, part of the distribution of pollution and all of the stuff who are participating in that. But they're like, hey, you know what? I want to make money. So let's not go there.
There's a lot of people who, and my kids would fall into that range, where they're career people, they're busy, they're torn in a million directions, and they're short on time. Whereas I think the younger people have, you see the marches, right?
Yeah.
Led by, all the kids around the world, and they're just freaked out, I think, as really young people thinking about their futures with all of the science that's been put before them and how urgent it is. And then there's our generation, which is thinking, we did this.
Yeah, we did this. These are my grandkids. I'm so worried for them. I'm scared for them.
Yeah, and we didn't know. At the time, we, seriously didn't realize. Maybe we should have, a lot earlier than we are. But I can speak for myself. Like when I was retiring in 2014 and thinking, okay, so what am I going to do? Like to make a difference, like to contribute to things that matter, and came across this. And when I realized that Canada was behind having a law that protects the right to a healthy environment behind so many other countries, and so was the U.S., speaking to your other listeners, Canada, the U.S., Australia, and China are the biggest ones. But so many other countries have national laws that protect the rights to clean air, clean water, safe food. Like, it's just crazy that we don't. And
we like our stuff too much. I think we like our stuff.
Or perhaps we've also had the luxury of being the countries that had so much space, like unlimited water, unlimited land, unlimited anything, forest, vegetation, wildlife, that we thought it would never end. And yet, you look at the Europeans or the Asian countries or more populated countries, they've run out. In many cases, they've learned nothing goes on forever, and we're behind. But we're all running out now, right? The globe is finite, and so that's why I thought in my personal case, it would be worthwhile making an effort towards this goal, because it really could make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I can also add that, I see hope as well from millennials, and, that in my, same with Mike, I have 2 kids, and, they're 30 somethings and they have young families now. And, it was largely my son and his wife, who are very environmentally focused, who, kind of encouraged me or provided a good example for me to realize, we need to do a lot more, and they do a lot of things that are not easy to do, to try to respect the environment, like deal with, cloth diapers and, cloth handkerchiefs and, being more vegetarian, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's certainly a lot of hope with young people coming out of colleges and universities as well, that they know much better now what needs to be done, and are pushing us to act, right?
Yeah. Last week I don't know if it was Bill Maher, or if it was Fareed, or one of those shows, or CNN even, they had their environmentalist on, and he's like, it's like almost too late. Like, it really, like, we'd have to act right now, like right now. And, I don't think he was an alarmist. I think he was telling the truth. We have to act right now. And when I started the Good Radio, it was on the premise that this download that said, go find people, one person who's making a difference, because I kept hearing, well, what can I do? What can I do? I'm just one person. And here was one person and one person and one person. You're making a huge difference. You're making a difference. And together, all of those people are making a bigger difference. And so one person can make a difference, and one person can contribute in ways big and small. And that was, really the premise, that radio can do a world of good. And we can find these people, and we can contribute to these projects and do things that are going to change the world. So it's interesting that, you retire and you look at it and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I can to make a difference and make a change, because it's important. Environment is important. I mean, if we don't have clean water and clean air, we got nothing. There is no biosphere that's going to save us. We're not going to go live on Mars. This is our planet. This is where we live. It's the only place that we can breathe. And maybe we won't be able to breathe in 40 years. Who knows? But I look and go, man, I did this to my grandchildren. Like, oh my gosh, like that scares me more than anything, really.
Yeah, David likes to use the message that we can only survive 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 30 days without food.
Yeah, that's right.
And if those things that you ingest in your body are contaminated or polluted, then you're going to get sick or die.
Right.
I mean, what's more fundamental than air, water, and safe food?
Yeah.
We have to guarantee that for everybody, right?
Yeah, we have to. And you can't just do it in one country. You can't just say, oh, here, this is ours, and we're going to have guns now because you're going to kind of come and want our stuff, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's the future as I see it. There's people who have, years of food in their locker and water. They're storepiling it, but they're storepiling their guns too, because I think people are going to come after it. They're going to want it. I don't know if you saw the documentary Blue Gold, which was people were buying up water rights. Like, what do they think? That they can own the water and then they're going to like keep it and nobody else can have it? And because we're so wealthy that, the Bushes were buying it and all kinds of people were buying water around the world that they owned it. And, so why are you going to, hold people hostage because we need water to live? It's really, it's scary the way minds work. And like when David Suzuki's daughter, when she went to France and she spoke in front of, I don't remember the board, the environmental, I can't remember what it was called, but it was an environmental Congress. And I mean, everybody had tears in her eyes. She was just so convincing that we have to do something. And here's a young girl, like 13 or 14 years old, speaking to these adults and maybe finally helping them believe that we need to take action.
So I think that's what's happening. I think it's Greta Thunberg. Is that the young lady's name?
Yes.
That's kind of with her now too, right? Kind of striking from high school and Fridays for Futures and encouraging similar movement now around the world. And the last one they had here was, over 150 people demonstrating in front of, was it Kitchener or Waterloo City Hall? So it's starting to really build now. And I'm sure it's going on a lot in the States as well, and around the world. So yeah, it's
many thousands in some places.
I know, Kerry, that, you charged me to go and find an MP to try to change their mind. And I said to you, why wouldn't somebody sign the pledge that we deserve to have clean air? Like, who wouldn't sign that? But there were people who didn't and who had to think about it. And it's like a no-brainer when you think about it. Like, why wouldn't you? So it's people are working on a political agenda to deny or to avoid clean air and clean water. Like, hello? Yeah,
it's really unfortunate and that such a thing would become politicized, but somehow it has. Although I think everybody's waking up. We've when you have a conversation with them, fundamentally, I think everybody agrees. It's the fact that it would be in law that gives people pause to say, well, what exactly would that turn into? So what we've been doing recently with the Blue Dot movement, because we've got a federal election coming up in Canada in the fall, is going around with people like yourself, Frankie, who've reached out to your local member of parliament and asked to have a meeting and explain where Canada stands in this situation where we don't have a national protection of our air quality, water quality, safe food, and point out that so many other countries have gone before us and have this, and they're functioning, and this is something that we really feel we need to have. And would you, as a member of parliament, support this being in federal law if you're elected in the fall? And what we're trying to do is get people who are either MPs now and running again or candidates to sign this sort of pledge so that they can demonstrate to those looking to vote that they get it and they are on board with this. So if it's an issue that matters to you, and in Canada we've had polls that indicate more and more people are thinking about the environment as a top issue, and that number is growing faster than any other issue according to an Environics poll that came out in the fall. So there's definitely an awareness, and if you believe the science and think about what the kids are telling us, these parliaments that we're electing now, these governments, are the last ones that can really make the changes that we need, or we're running out of time. Like, these people are the ones we have to count on. Yeah. So it is pretty scary and dire. It's definitely possible. I having grown up in Sudbury and seen Sudbury transform, I am totally convinced it's possible, and I believe the world will be better for it. I really think we'll all be better off when we learn to create energy from cleaner sources. And then that will be, we'll look back and think, what were we thinking, for all those years when we didn't.
I remember being 14 or 15 years old and going, how come we can't run cars on water? Like, what about, hydrogen? And what about, why does it have to be gasoline? Why does it have to be smelly? Why does it have to, I'd be riding horses if I could, but it, really, like, I didn't understand. And then as I grew up and I began to understand that it's all about money. It's all about greed. It's all about That's all it is. You know, there's an industry out there that runs oil, and there's an industry out there that runs gas, and that they, people, you know, it was almost like a mafia where people who resisted or who tried to make the changes, they were killed. I mean, they were literally targeted and killed. And so that's a very scary thing. And that's only because of money. So, you know, we need to change our thinking about money. Money, I mean, what good is money if you're dead? Really, what good is money when you're dead? You're not going to have anything to sell to anybody. No cars are going to be running. No cars are being made. Nothing's happening because you're dead. So, you know, I always wondered why those movies show the dystopian future is all black and gray and really like there's nothing happening. But you know, not our future.
One thing that's encouraging to see is that even some of the heads of some of the oil companies are actually supportive of price on carbon pricing.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's good to see, and hopefully more Canadians will wake up and realize that it is a good thing, despite sometimes using the tax word. You know, it still is a good and important way to get us off fossil fuels and more onto renewables, and it's something we all need to do.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other groups out there who are aligned but separate, like different, that can help grow or help change, that have come forward to Blue Dot and say, hey, you know what, we should hook up? And
we align with quite a few groups. I think one that comes to mind that's probably, you know, pretty close is the Wellington Water Watchers. You know, so they're a pretty you know, large and influential group, and so it, of course, they're all about protecting the water in the Wellington County area, which is mostly under threat by companies like Nestle's, who of course extract and bottle and sell water, right? So they get the water for, you know, pennies for 1 million liters, and then sell it for $1 a half liter, and produce all sorts of plastic pollution.
Yeah.
So they've been doing a lot of lobbying to encourage the Ontario government not to renew any more licenses and not to grant any new water extraction licenses. And so, yeah, we try to, you know, align with them a little bit.
I think you made a really big point there, and that is, you know, clean water is wonderful, but not clean water in plastic, because now you have another problem. It doesn't break down. So what can we put that water in? Glass? You know, like we need to figure it out again.
So it should just be out of our taps, or reusable bottles, of course, and whatever. But yeah, that's one. Others come to mind, Kerry, that you want to comment on, or?
Well, I think on a national scale, you've got the medical associations. The David Suzuki Foundation is national, and they have aligned themselves with our current federal Liberal government that wants to put a price on pollution. And the you know, the doctors, nurses associations have put out a formal statement saying they feel that for health, urgent action on climate change must happen. And so it all ties together. If you act on climate change to reduce fossil fuels, you reduce the pollutants that fossil fuels contain, which reduces the, you know, the air and pollution and asthma. And when we met yesterday, we a couple of us met with a candidate, Tim Lewis, who's going to run as a candidate in Kitchener, and he related immediately to the topic because says he has a friend, a man who's a big, strong guy, but he has trouble breathing, and he used to wind up in emergency regularly when we had coal-fired plants going in Ontario. And this man would just be done, like he couldn't breathe. So this was also the case for many people. We know that our emergency wards would be filled with people who were just gasping for air when we had smog days. And now that we've taken action, and that was started by a Conservative government and finished by a Liberal government, it took years, but we shut down our 5 coal-fired plants, and the air is much cleaner. And people with, you know, difficulty breathing in challenging pollution are not going to emerge. So we're saving billions of dollars in healthcare.
Are you hearing this, Trump? Are you here? Should I tweet? I should tweet, maybe. Because, you know, he thinks coal is wonderful and we should open up all the coal plants in the United States. Let's get the miners back to work. Yay.
Well, it certainly was a huge source of pollution in our area, in Ontario. And shutting down our 5 coal-fired plants was the biggest single initiative to reduce air pollution in North America. And
amazing.
And we're, you know, we're using alternate sources. And we're growing our renewables. A lot of it's nuclear, but we're keep growing our renewables, and we've got a little bit of natural gas. But we switched, and it's possible. You see it all over the world that people are just switching to other sources that are so much cleaner.
Yeah, Jim, you have an initiative coming up that you're having people want to volunteer for cleaning up. Is it the woods, or the roads, or?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, we spend most of our time trying to influence our political representatives to make legislative changes that are our goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a little trying over time to just continue to do that without really doing something kind of physical with your hands. So what we've been trying to do over the last couple of years, especially, is trying to get more hands-on involved in things like planting trees or pulling invasive species or picking up garbage in parks or whatever. So we're going to be, it's either on the April 13th or 14th, we're going to go to Laurel Creek Nature Center, and we're going to help pull invasive species there.
Mm-hmm.
We were there last year actually and helped clear an area for turtles for nesting as well. So you know what, I mean, these kinds of things are wonderful to remind us what it is we're really trying to get these rights for, to help us reconnect with nature.
Yeah.
And better understand what we're really fighting for.
Kids, it reminds me of when my kids were little, kids are always so amazed when they see nature. They're always, even if it's on a farm and they see a calf or a piglet or something, oh, wow. Like, it's just such a big thing because they don't see it all the time. We're not as close to nature as we used to be. And one of as an artist, is one of my initiatives was, I don't know, there's a little buffalo down there. That's the wood buffalo. And that wood buffalo is extinct in Canada. And I started a series of animals and mammals that were becoming extinct in Canada, including the bumblebee. And, I think it's important to just think about the broad picture. It's environment, it's climate, it's pollution, but who's affected? Not just human beings. Like, no animal should go extinct in our lifetime. There's no need for that. There's no need for that at all. Yeah. Like, it's horrible when I see it happen.
Many will, unfortunately.
And many will, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's Canada. And you think Canada, oh, it's big, it's wide open. There's, you got hunting laws, you've got this and that. Like, they should be okay. But they're not. They're dying. And the otter's dying. I mean, the cute little otter. You see them in a commercial. So, we need to think about this and bring people's awareness to that. And I love that you guys are doing that. I thank you for that.
The other thing, Frankie, is there's going to be in Kitchener-Waterloo area, there's going to be an Earth Day event April 27th at Bechtel Park. So people can go there to plant trees, but they can also enjoy a bird of prey demonstration and other information booths about mammals and snakes and various things. So we're going to go there as a team as well and plant trees for a good part of it. So it's just another thing another way that many of us can get involved in actually directly helping nature as well.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? The Amazon rainforest that business wants to tear down and turn into, I don't know, subdivisions or something crazy. When we need those trees to breathe, we need trees to breathe. Like, there's such a necessity. I don't know if people aren't getting, science. Maybe they didn't get it in school when they, people were our age, so they missed that class or lessons or whatever. But we need that, and I guess everybody's doing their job and their role, but maybe it's time for another handout or something that just on a website somewhere that just says, these are the necessities of life. These are the necessities for life. And you check 1 to 10, and if we have that, we're good. And let them just know in a really easy terms. Just like they have a card in their wallet or something. I don't know. But I think there's an education that needs to happen again, a re-education, possibly.
With the youth, I think it's most important to get that connection going when kids are young.
Yeah.
Get them engaged with nature when they're young, and then they can carry it on through the rest of their lives. So, yeah, it's very important.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And boys and girls, right? I mean, when we were girls, young girls, it was boys fish. Boys do.
I fished when I was young.
I do, and my daughter's a huge. She'll go every chance she can. She's fishing, but. And in the Grand too, and I'm like, oh, okay, but it's
Grand all summer.
yeah. But you know, like when I was young, girls didn't handle snakes, they didn't handle this, they didn't handle, now like they do everything. And so it's really important that, you know, there is no gender bias when it comes to nature. Everybody can get involved, right?
A lot
Growing up in Northern Ontario, maybe.
Yeah, Northern Ontario, you're out there hunting and fishing and doing your thing. Yeah. Well, and up there is so beautiful, and Lake Superior is so beautiful. You know, a couple of our kids went to school up north, and it's just absolutely stunning area. And you want to protect that. You know, you want to protect that. You're going to say something, Jim?
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying there's lots of ways kids can get involved in outdoor nature things.
Well, yeah, you're a scout leader. You can tell us all about it.
Scouting programs are all co-ed now, right? So whether it's...
Are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
5 to like, I don't know, 16 or whatever.
Oh.
Leaders, Scouts, Ventures, they're all co-ed. You know, so if, you know, girls can certainly join as well with boys and doing all these things, and much of them outdoor oriented. And there's all sorts of, well, there's like nature, like Ontario Nature, and, you know, the same kind of nature organizations across the country, of course, involve, you know, everybody. So there's lots of opportunities. The challenge is there's so many opportunities for young people now that many times they're doing the hockey or the...
They are, yeah.
Or the whatever, that the priority of the outdoor natural things don't seem to get in there sometimes, right?
Yeah, I worked for the government of Ontario before at the time of my accident. And I remember, you know, Ministry of Natural Resources, they have there's a couple of weeks where you do the wolf watch up near Peterborough. We can go and, you know, listen to the wolves and see the wolves do their thing. And is it Cochrane? You've got the polar bear exhibit up there. You can go swimming with the polar bears. It's, you know, there's a lot of exciting things in our country and around our country to see nature wise. And we want to keep it like that. And so, you know, we highly encourage people to get involved. And I mean, I don't think Blue Dot's going to turn anyone away.
No.
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 And when everybody has signed, then what? You know, do you what's the next level? What's next? Do you know? Is it going to evolve? Have they talked about that?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is make this an election issue, and if a candidate or an MP is not aware, bring that awareness to the discussion. So it sometimes takes more than one meeting because people want to think about it and assess it, and
sure.
But you know, we're expecting to get many more signatures from MPs and candidates before the election. But that's just the beginning of the work, because once they're elected, now we're going to be looking at, okay, what are we going to do? For instance, Jim mentioned it a little earlier, we have a Canadian Environmental Protection Act, but it's old and it needs revising. And so our government looked at it last year with an eye to asking all the people who are focused, what should we do? They got 87 recommendations, which is great. And so they've got all this material. So now, you know, how are you going to put it into legislation? And that's the stage we're at. So there'll be advocacy work for getting it done, I think, until it's done. And so, you know, we won't go away because it's got to get done. And then even at that point, then there'll be, you know, if you have the right in law, what does that mean? So it would mean more transparency as decisions are being made,
sure.
Which would be opportunities for people to get engaged, to say, you know, are you sure that's not going to pollute? And let's look at the studies. Let's check it out. And you know, lawsuits are not the goal. That's an unfortunate conclusion if things haven't worked out the way they should. There should be proactive, preventative measures about pollution.
Well, not to mention that, you know, I said at the top of the show, we're committed to the global goals. We signed that document, climate change, action on climate change by 2030. 2030 might be a little bit far away now, too far away really to start thinking about it. So we need to do it like immediately, but we're committed as a country. We signed that, so we have to.
Well, and I think
maybe
you're also seeing more urgency. I think when the goals were set, since we've had more reports that have said, you know, our timeline's actually shorter, and it's been moved up. So you've got now cities in Canada that are declaring climate emergencies, and a lot of them are on the coast because they're going to get hammered the worst, as as seas rise and storms push that water inland. But you're seeing more and more in Hamilton, near us, which is on a lake, but it's not on a coast, has also declared a climate emergency because the cities are where it really happens.
Yeah.
So, I think there's an awareness and action that's starting, that's not waiting for us to reach those goals, or will help us reach those goals. Maybe.
Yeah.
Is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Our other federal goal is really to get a federal environmental bill of rights in place as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's been put forward before as a independent members bill quite some time ago that didn't really have, a lot of legs to run with. But it's also something that the current government has shown some support for in the past as well. So I think strengthening the Canadian Environmental Protection Act and potentially getting a federal environmental bill of rights are the two most tangible kinds of legislation that we hope to see come out of the federal government, if we get enough support moving forward.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, let's hope I can't imagine that that's not going to happen. Because who doesn't want that for their future and their family's future? If you're thinking of a legacy, there's a great one to leave for our country and for your family. Really,
it would be, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about Blue Dot, and talk about volunteering, and talk about what you're doing and the environment, and how important clean air and clean water are for everybody, really. There's nobody that's not going to benefit from that.
Frankie, could I just point out a couple things that folks can do if they're interested in supporting or getting involved? And maybe you could, they're going to mention a couple links and stuff, and maybe you could put them in the notes for your show that folks could look at afterwards. But I'll just briefly say that, some of the things they can do is they can add their name to our national petition, which I mentioned at 111,000. So let's make it more. They can encourage their MPs and candidates to make this pledge that we spoke about. And there's a link, where they can go on there and either send an email or agree to help do get these pledges by meeting with them, joining us in meetings. We have a local Facebook page called Waterloo Blue Dot, so they could check that out and follow it and see what's going on. And if they'd like to consider joining our team, then they can send an email to our waterloobluedot@gmail.com email ID as well, and we'd welcome any help that they can provide.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So there you go. You have some action steps. And if you're not in this area, that's okay. It's Canada-wide. And if you're not in Canada, look up in your own municipality, your own city, your own town, what you can do. Because this isn't just a Canadian problem. It's a world problem. And it's going to take all of us to fix it.
Very true.
Very good.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Facebook. We'll see you later.
Take care.
See where you are. Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys, so much for coming on.
Good.
Thank you, Frankie.
You're very welcome.
Good. Okay. I'm going to take this off of Facebook because I'm going to put the new front end on it, and I'll put it back up, and it's going to separate into a podcast. And so it'll be podcasted, and the video will go back up on Facebook and on the YouTube channel. And I'll send you those links if you want them. Okay.
I hope that crying problem was
a day or two. Pardon?
I said, I hope that crying thing wasn't too bad.
No, it's okay. You know what? That's why I love live. Because anything can happen, and it does. And I don't, I just go with the flow. Listen, that's life. You got a crying baby. What can you do?
That's the generation we're talking about.
Exactly. Okay.